All right, it's being live streamed to YouTube, and I welcome you all here at the Zoom. Um, yeah, and of course, I was waiting for the YouTube screen to come up so I can shut them up because now I hear myself in 5-minute increments. All right, so hi there, and welcome to our 29th Gutenberg Times Live Q&A. My name is Birgit Pauli-Haag, and I'm your host and the curator of Gutenberg Times. Thank you all for watching. It's so great to have you here. In today's show, we will discuss with 3 outstanding theme developers how they went from building classic themes to building block-based themes geared towards full-site editing. And let's introduce the panelists. We have early morning in New Zealand, Ellen Bauer, co-founder of Elma Studio, and with Manuel Esposito, the co-author of the Ano theme. Ellen, thank you so much for being here on the show again. It's so good to see you.
Yes, it's so good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure, anytime. So also with us, and for the first time on the show, Anders Noren, theme developer from Sweden and designer of the default WordPress theme 2020. His theme Excel, probably the last classic theme from him, powers the Gutenberg Times. It's a pleasure to meet you, Anders.
Likewise, super happy to be here.
Also, and finally, meet Carolina Nymark. Carolina Nymark, also from Sweden, member of the themes team, co-author of the TT1 block theme, and development lead on the 2021 theme. And her second full-site editing theme is Armando, and it's in the WordPress directory. So glad you have you back on the show, Carolina. It's the 3rd time. I could call you my co-host. It's so good to see you. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm very well. Always excited to come and talk about themes.
So thank you. So, and we have people from Toronto. Hi, Robert. Hi, Jack. Hi, Pia Maria from Italy. Also star of the testing full-site editing outreach team, because he translated many of the tests into Italian, and that's a huge work. And thank you very much for that, Pia Maria. And then, of course, Brian Gardner. The minute I mentioned his word, Ellen just disappeared from the screen for a minute. So it was kind of interesting. Well, greetings back to Chicago. So we are also excited and for you joining us on Zoom and on YouTube. And yeah, so I have an announcement while I have you all. Next week, the next Gutenberg Times live Q&A will be next week with Helen Husandi, Mark Jaquith, and Riyad Benguela. So Helen Husandi is a co-committer on WordPress. So I think it's Mark Jaquith and Riyad. Riyad is also the developer lead for Gutenberg, and they will discuss continue a discussion that was started on Twitter some weeks ago, on how to make it easier to build blocks. And all 3 have explored ways on how PHP and React.js could talk together to make this a better experience for developers. It will happen next week, October 14th at 11 Eastern, 15 UTC. Registrations are open, and I'll share the link in the chat window so you can kind of, if you're interested, can register there as well. Hi to Toro Miki from Tokyo. Hi to Nepal. It's good to see you all. So speaking of the questions, for those who are watching this on YouTube and live stream, use the chat window on the right-hand side. I don't know where it is, but and if you're on Zoom here, use the chat box, the Q&A for the question, and the chat bubble for all your other thoughts. Please keep it family friendly. even if you disagree. This is a family club, so to speak. All right, and hi back to Atlanta to Sequester McKinney. It's all so great to see you here. All right, so what's today's show about? Our topic is how do theme developers move from building classic themes to building block-based themes with full-site editing. Features that are already in WordPress 5.8 and more will come to WordPress 5.9 and WordPress 6.0. Development has been going on for almost 2 years, and some of you might remember our previous shows here on the same spot. One in January 2020 was the first one, then in June, then again this year in January, and in June was the last one with Jeff Ong, Daisy Olson, and Tam Alister, where we talked very extensively about the theme.json. And Jeff did a little demo there. So if you want to go back in our records or on YouTube to see that. So with full site editing and global styles, themes are changing in architecture as well as in functionality. They will enable much more customizations for users than ever before. So today, we're having that conversation with the theme developers who already walked the path before you, dear viewers, in building block-based themes and put them out for users to use. So Anders first, and then Ellen, we will have a demo of their work and to give us an overview. And then by then, I would think we will have already some questions from the audience, from you. Before we go into the weeds too deep, let's do a round robin to a question for everyone. So when you were building the themes, you are on the cutting edge, and some would say on the bleeding edge of Gutenberg development. That must have been quite stressful. So what were the factors and situations that kept you going? And what is it that excites you so much about this new way of building themes that you kind of went through the experience? And what kept you going and jump head in first? Carolina first, then Ellen, and then Anders.
So when I first started, it was all about having new toys to play with, right? And then work on 2021 and T21 blocks started. T21 blocks was a little bit later. And yes, it was stressful, but also a lot of fun. But again, we got to contribute back to Gutenberg and improve on the things that we found that weren't working. And also figure out what features do we need to add later. What's our wish list? And of course, what is not working right now? What bugs need to be fixed?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for going through the bug fixing part and the testing part. Ellen? Who's next? Yeah.
Can you hear my audio?
Yes, very well.
Yep.
Okay.
We hear you.
I just changed something. So Carolina was like started way longer, and she did have cool full site editing website, which I knew for a long time, and like I knew the terms and stuff, and we were kind of busy building blogs, and that took up a lot of my time kind of learning, getting into that part. And so it's like back and forth switching between themes and blogs for us, which was challenging or is challenging. But the final like 5.8, the release of 5.8 was the final like straw for us, and we've been building, I know, for like over a year, like just beta building, kind of testing where we should go. It was like we felt a little bit stuck at times, like what should we do? We played around with patterns a lot, and we just thought like there's something missing with our I know theme. And we just started the project for this whole transition. So obviously then we had this I know theme kind of sitting around waiting to be a block theme. And with 5.8, we just kind of like, okay, we go with it. We had the theme in the WordPress org repository, and it was just always meant to be for this kind of project. So 5.8 got us ready. Like, there's a site editor. Let's just try it out. And I thought it will maybe take me like a few days to, which was a little bit naive. And then I think it ended up being 3 weeks mainly, and there's like still huge like work in progress. We had the theme already on like with WooCommerce support, and I was like eager to get WooCommerce into the blog theme. I didn't want to lose any of our work. And yeah, there's still like things to do, but it has WooCommerce support, and it's kind of cool that we can jump in like right from the beginning and kind of explore what we can do and what we can't do. And then yeah, we updated the theme as a blog theme, and we're super happy that we went this way. But then there was like, oh, there's quite a lot of Gutenberg updates like pushed. And I remember, Carolina, you said this, oh, there's a lot of Gutenberg updates to be pushed like quite like fast. You have to be on your toes. And one of them like got me, like I was like, oh gosh, what are they doing? I didn't pay attention. I was so busy. But yeah, now I think I have it a little bit better under control, like after the first 1 or 2 updates with like as a blog theme. The one thing that caught me a little bit off guard, like converting to the HTML templates, was that I didn't realize once people use the templates and I changed something in them, that it wouldn't change for them automatically because they customized them. So I made changes to the page templates, and so that was a little bit confusing, and I learned my lesson from that. But we have we have awesome users, and they kind of like, I think we got it sorted out together, like a lot of help, and we have a Slack channel, which is super useful. People can like shout out like, Ellen, what are you doing? I think it will be smoother, and yeah, we learn big lessons.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. Anders?
Yeah, I was going to say that I didn't really feel like a trailblazer or an early adopter in block themes, because by the time I actually dove deep into it, and people like Carolina with fullsiteediting.com had already found the path through full site editing themes and documented pretty much everything theme developers need to know, I feel like, to actually get started with block-based themes. So it felt like the path was pretty well worn by the time I actually started walking down it, because that was just like around summer this year, whereas Carolina has been working with it for a year plus at this point. So I feel like pretty much everyone who works with block-based themes now owe a lot to the people who really spent time with them in the early days, because it has only gotten easier to build them up until this point, and will hopefully get a lot easier as 5.9 gets closer as well. But I mean, I'm going to echo Carolina as well with saying that the thing that keeps you going is just that it's so fun to play around with all of the toys that full site editing brings. And the really fun part is when you actually release something and other users start to use your theme, and they actually use it in ways that you didn't imagine at all while you were making it. I had a support request from a guy just the other day who sent me a link to a site running my block-based theme. And at first I thought that he had actually sent me the wrong link, because I couldn't recognize it as Tove, my theme, because the layouts were different, the colors were different, the typeface was different. So it just looked like a completely different theme from mine. And I feel like that's always the really exciting part, when the users actually step in and do something completely unexpected with it. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in this space overall as 5.9 gets closer. So I think the next 2 months will be really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. So I don't see any comments for our audience to here too. So I'm glad that you all, and thank you very much for saying that for about Carolina and all those who worked so hard on it. Yeah, it's nice of you to say and to acknowledge that. So I think it's a great time now to see the finished product. First Anders, as I said, and then Ellen. And dear viewers, if you probably will have questions right away, and I'll ask you for a little bit of a patience, then we will switch to the Q&A after the demos. And a note, if you write long blog posts before you get to your question, I probably skip it as it will be too long to read, first for me and then out loud. And I will get you an answer after the show, promised. As Andrea Middleton wrote, be kind, be brief. So Anders, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, let's do it. There we go. So I thought it was going to keep this pretty simple and just show a little bit from my Blockface theme, which is called Tove, after Tove Jansson, the Finnish creator of the Moomin characters. And basically just give a brief overview of how a site running a block-based theme can look like. But as I said earlier, it can really look like anything, which is the whole point of block-based themes in the first place. So what we have here is the demo site for the theme Tove, which is on WordPress.org. And I sort of created this with a cafe/restaurant in mind. And a lot of the patterns here on the front page, including the header pattern here, is sort of geared towards that audience. So we have a little call us button here on the top. We have the social icons. We have opening hours and a small menu. And everything on this page is done completely within the site editor. So we have opening hours again here. And we have one of the cafe/restaurant oriented block patterns that are included in the theme, with information for a location in a cafe restaurant chain. We have some testimonials, a call to action for when you want to make a reservation, some very nice looking coffee, a cafe menu, a different call to action, a very tasty looking lemon cake, I think. And then some more information about the theme itself. And my plan for making this theme is that I was going to keep it as simple as possible within the constraints of full site editing and block themes, which is something I struggle with because I want to basically tweak and adjust everything. So when it's something in the core block editor styles that I don't really agree with, I tend to try to overwrite them, which never works out well because then you need to keep up to date with the latest Gutenberg updates and so on. But I think with full site editing, what's going to happen is as the block editor gets better and better with every Gutenberg update and every WordPress release, is that theme developers will actually remove CSS from their themes step by step. Because the whole idea with block themes is that eventually they will only need to be the theme.json file, which Ellen will show in her demo, where everything that makes the theme a theme, all the colors, all the fonts, all of the layout adjustments will all live within a single JSON file, which can be easily changed and adapted for other themes and so on. So hopefully CSS will be something that you can add but doesn't need to add to make your theme look good. So I look forward to remove a lot more CSS in the future, in future updates. And here you can see a brief overview of the structure of Tuve, what files are included. So where we want to get is where this file is the only file in the theme folder. So one day, hopefully, maybe a screenshot as well. And the second big component of the theme is really all of the block patterns, which are bundled with it as well, which are all listed out on this page. And this is really the second big puzzle piece, I would say, of block-based themes. It needs to look good and then include a few examples of how to combine the different blocks in patterns that make the styles look and work as well as possible. So that's a very brief look at the WordPress theme Tuve. All right, I think that's all.
Can I say to Anders that what I like most about this theme is not that it is a block theme, but it's so cute. It just really makes you happy to look at it. It's really, really cute.
I'm really, really happy to hear that, Carolina. Thank you. Yeah, I had some, I mean, since the themes, the block-based themes themselves are so simple to actually make, you need to spend that time that you would otherwise spend writing a bunch of PHP on something else. So I just made illustrations basically for Tuve, which was a lot of fun, and maybe I got a bit carried away with it as well. All right. Oh, I think your audio is muted, Birgit.
Yeah, I muted it because I answered a few comments on YouTube, and there was Marcus Kazmierczak, and I need to ask him if I'm butchering his name now. He says, I'm an Anders super fan. I've been running his themes for years. So, and then he loves the bright colors and the feel. And,
thank you, Marcus.
Yeah. Ganger says, I did recommend the theme to who wants to learn block themes, and the theme is really good looking. So these are comments, and love saying thanks Carolina and Anders for the block themes. And she has a question, but we're gonna go through the question just in a bit. Ellen, are you ready?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I share my screens. I have to select them. So I thought that it's a little bit improvised. I thought because Anders showed kind of the front end of the themes, it's probably fun to look at the back end. So just kind of to give an overview for anyone who hasn't looked at what we are building. So this is our INO website. It's like the presentation website for our project. And I just opened the different pages so you kind of see what we're building like layout wise. So the different pages, we kind of present the work that way. And what our approach is with this site is that anything we put out here, that's just the blog and post, is always the latest version of our INO work. So everything you see here, you can build with our patterns and with everything we have like out in the INO theme and with our blogs. So I thought it's fun, like we don't have any showcase websites and stuff yet up. We will add that because that's gonna be fun to see, but you can always see like what we are building, you can build. So I think that's an awesome approach. So we had INO as like classic theme with just patterns in the beginning, and then we converted it to a block theme. So I don't know not everyone has started using block themes. So what happens if you block theme instead of a classic theme? You see the site editor, which is currently in beta. And actually, at the very beginning, I kind of didn't know that is the customizer, which is kind of fun. Like for themes, they have it anymore. So you kind of need a workaround of it.
You were breaking up in a bit, Ellen.
What we have.
So are you
The
frozen,
experiment
Ellen?
actually. Am I frozen?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, we get you now. Yeah, the screen changed. Yeah.
My screen or the audio?
The audio was
Is it the
going
screen or
in
the
and out,
audio?
and the screen finally changed to the experimental settings there. And I think with the latest plugin, the site editor is actually. Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's my internet connection. Oh my God. Oh. Well, the site editor is?
Yeah, I think the internet connection in conjunction with the video going back and forth might be a problem. So no audio at all. Ellen, can you hear me?
I can hear you. My internet connection is unstable. Should we maybe
when you
just talk and then I can do the presentation in a bit later?
Yeah, let's do that. We have our first. So what you wanted to show was how the site editor works with your theme. And
yes.
And I think there's too much power that needs to go out in and out on the visuals for your internet connection. So so if you want to try things, for those who don't know it, and that's a theme.json file with the template parts and footer and headers and header logo, header dark, footer dark, and footer live columns light. These are all sections on the theme. So do you want to stop sharing, Ellen?
Should I try again or should I stop?
I would say stop sharing.
Okay.
But you can.
We can try later.
Yeah, either later or kind of put it in a. We saw your theme. Yeah, you scrolled very well through it. So I really like it. And there was also some comments there. I love your design, said Lobsang Wangdu. And then we had no audio and Wi-Fi problems. Jack Kennett. Yeah, well, it's the internet. Yeah, when Facebook went offline for 6 hours. Yeah, so it's still a little fragile. But Lobsang had a question for how to inherit theme JSON to child theme JSON. At the moment, that doesn't seem to work. Carolina, do you have an answer for that?
I do have news maybe, because it should work since the latest version 11.6 from last week. It should actually work. Okay. So if you haven't updated Gutenberg, I suggest that you try again with the child theme.
I actually tried that out too. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Oh my God, now I think I'm totally off.
No, we hear you. It was just a combination
with New Zealand. Yeah, I think maybe
video that kind of made you.
I think
jumpy.
I tried that too with the child theme, and it didn't work like just 2 or 3 weeks ago, because we actually really want to get into child themes, and it There was an update, yeah, like Carolina said, it should work a lot better now. And I think it will be worked on quite a bit, like over the next weeks.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the first question, and that seemed to be the only question right now from the audience. So I have a question. So when you were trying to, what were the concepts going from classic to block-based theme that you had a hard time kind of connecting? You mentioned, Ellen, the HTML part of that. What were other things that were that are totally different, but that were kind of a little bit of a hurdle to get it all right?
From our side, it was mainly like not the actual development, because the file template structure and stuff kind of stays the same. So you just kind of need to, you can actually go into the editor and then switch to code mode and kind of copy paste your work. And luckily, like Anders said, we could look, like we also looked at Carolina's theme and especially also the block-based theme from like Automatic is building, and their quadrat theme. That really helped me just to get a first idea of what I'm actually doing. It was mostly like after we converted to that, like with updates, I didn't quite completely understand the structure, that like once you edit anything in your template, that it becomes like a custom template. And so a theme author updates their work, the templates, it doesn't get updated for every user automatically. That was kind of the confusing part. Because normally as a theme author, you had completely control like of your template files, and because more things like users can customize themselves and adapt in their template files, and they kind of customize it. So you need to be more careful with updates, like what you update or what you shouldn't update.
So
And
do you think that's a bug?
no, I think it was like just I didn't quite get it at the beginning. Like the concept, you kind of really have to play around with to get the concept, because it's so different. And like Anders said, like he thinks he will kind of get rid of his CSS work, and which I think is cool. I think that definitely true that like global styles will be there, but I think it's also awesome that there will be different approaches. Like we will kind of have a base CSS and then work with different themes to serve that. So you can use child themes for that, which is awesome. So they're totally different kind of approaches going forward, which is cool. It will be cool to see like people building totally different things. And I think the global styles was pretty easy to get into the theme JSON. And then also, I think we need to mention that it's the first version of the theme JSON, and it's kind of like chaotic and gets like long pretty quickly, and that will definitely change. So we have to be on our watch to see how the theme JSON approach will be improved. Probably split up into multiple sections and stuff.
So Anders, were there concepts that you found difficult to grasp, and that kind of took a while till you actually figured it out?
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging parts for me was actually the design phase of making a theme. Because usually when you make a classic theme, you can design it pretty much however you want. And know that using PHP and CSS, you can recreate your design exactly, because you have full control over where all the elements are, what elements are used, and how you style those elements. But with block-based themes, you're really governed by what can be created in the site editor. So how users can combine the different blocks to create a layout, and how you can combine different blocks to create a layout. So my initial designs for Tove were pretty involved in like the header and footer areas. and I was really happy with the design. And then I set about recreating those layouts in the site editor and quickly realized that I couldn't create them as I had designed them, because the block editor is still somewhat limited in how you can lay out the page and have it scale correctly down to mobile and stuff. So I think the approach for designing block-based themes will rely a lot more on you actually deciding what colors you will use, what fonts you will use, and then design how specific blocks and block styles will look. And after you have all of those components and basically your global styles set, you will need to go about actually building the design with the different header layouts and the footer layouts in the site editor itself. And I think that will be a pretty big workflow change, really, for everyone who builds classic themes now and will move over to block-based themes. Because I believe a lot of designers will have my experience of designing something really involved, trying to build it, realizing I can't build it like this, and then basically reevaluating the original design and try to work within the constraints of the site editor and what you can do as the block editor gets better and better. I think that was really my, the biggest change I had to go through with Tua.
Yeah, well, I understand that. Yeah, so it's more like you need to know the end product before you actually have the end product, and also there is probably the design system approach for the patterns kind of that will come into much higher attention there. So we got some questions, and one is from Tim Bowen. And the theme.json color naming, and that's of course one that will occupy plenty of. So is there a primary, secondary, tertiary kind of naming, or would you rather do the blue and the green and the red kind of thing? I think it also goes into, that question also goes into the theme switching problem, or changing colors later on. To get this done. Do you want to take that? Who wants to take it? Carolina?
I switched from using slugs. Slug is the code, the name, and the name that is visible is can be different, right? So I switched from using red, blue to primary, secondary trade, because there were a lot of discussions around it. How do we make block patterns match when we switch themes? And then how do we make colors match when we use block patterns from the block pattern directory, and so on. So you can display red, the color can be red, but the actual name in the code can be primary or secondary, for example.
Okay, yeah.
So that should reduce some of the problems.
That was also your approach, Anders, I think, when I looked at things.
Yeah, exactly. And that was actually as I'm sure everyone here knows, 2022, the next default theme was unveiled just the other day and looks really, really good, by the way, I think. And the first thing I checked when the GitHub repository for that went live was how the naming scheme for the colors are in that theme. And they also use the primary, secondary, tertiary model. So I'm assuming that a lot of people will use 2022 as a foundation for future block-based themes. And we should say that I think the original proponent of using that structure, one of the foremost proponents at least, was Rick Tabor as well in a blog post. And he sort of got the ball rolling on this discussion.
Yeah. So the next question is, can I use...
Can I
sure,
add
Ellen,
just a tiny bit? Because when I got into it, what is actually pretty cool is that you have your general color palette for the theme, and then you can also add specific color palettes, because ours got kind of like long, and I thought, oh, that's maybe not so helpful. And so you can actually name color palettes just for specific blocks, which I think is super helpful. So you have a button block and you only want your button colors in the button block. So you have like under like block specific color palettes as well in options in the theme.json, which I think is helpful to kind of split it up and make it more approachable.
Yeah, so another question is, can I use theme.json with a classic theme? I am using Genesis, and that comes from Lobsang Wangdu again. And I can answer that quite fast because Marcus Kazmierczak has on his blog exactly that, using theme.json on classic theme. And I will share the link in the chat window so you can read up about it. It's actually quite nice. Have any of you used the theme.json for classic themes?
I haven't tried it yet, actually.
Yeah.
I want to look into it though.
Yeah, what I really like is that in the classic theme, up until that point, you had to use the color or assign the color in your functions PHP for the palette, and then in your CSS, you had to actually have a section for the background color and a section for the text color. So you were talking about it 3 times. So, but the theme.json, what it does, you put it, what you put in the functions PHP, kind of similar on the JSON, and that's it. You don't have to do any CSS, and that's really helpful. So I really enjoyed that when I was reading through that and trying that out. Yeah. So Jonas Sander has a question. So I know includes some PHP files, but not Tove, but which is Anders's theme. Where will the journey go, with or without PHP files?
So obviously the function PHP will stay. I think but it's like super stripped down. Yeah, you can replace a lot of things from the functions into the theme.json file, sorry. But why we have still PHP files is mainly because of our WooCommerce support. We needed to keep some things in for the WooCommerce support because some of the things are not quite yet ready. That was the only reason. So we kind of like a little bit still in between theme. But I think, yeah, without PHP files for us at least.
Yeah, and as, you did a little introduction to your Tove theme, and you made a comment about that your classic theme, Excel, was so elaborate and had so many thousands of lines of code and CSS lines, and it was so much lightweight, so much more lightweight to do a block-based theme. Yeah,
there's really no comparison in terms of just scale of the themes. And that was another thing I noticed on the 2022 GitHub repository as well. You can see the GitHub stats for what type of files are included in the folder. And it's just like, I think it's maybe 6% PHP or something, maybe 24% JSON, and then just HTML, because the HTML is obviously the templates and the template parts. And Tove has a lot more styles right now, which I want to cut down on as I can move more of that into theme.json. Mm-hmm. But even with the size of the style sheets, comparing it to a theme like Excel, which has like 7 PHP classes and like 2,000 lines in functions.php, it's just a completely different scale of theme. And I mean, obviously with a block-based theme, the potential for what you can do in the theme is so much greater than in a classic theme. So I'll be really interested to see how many people actually get into creating themes now that block-based themes become much more easy to create. Because I think a lot of people who don't have a background in development, but rather in design, will have theme.json as a very nice entry point to start with colors and typography, and then get into creating patterns and so on. So it will really open up the entire theme creation process to people with less of a technical background. And hopefully that in turn can lead to more interesting theme designs overall, which is something I know everyone who does WordPress themes have been asking for years.
Yeah.
So I really think the colors and typography will become king in the theme development space. So that'll be really exciting, I think.
Yeah. Carolina, you wanted to say something regarding the weight of things?
Yes. Right now, we still need to use PHP to register block patterns. But for example, the block styles, we can do them with JavaScript if you prefer. So there will be some PHP left, but I'm looking forward to plugins catching up so that we don't need to have some fallbacks.
All right. Okay. So the next question was, can you sign, also from Lobsang, can you assign header and footer template parts to different pages and posts? She couldn't find it from the dashboard.
You
Yes.
can assign them, but you have to open that page or post first. So there's no dashboard. You have to go to the site editor and then either replace your current header, if there is a header, or add a new part.
Okay.
If you have ideas for how you would like to assign them, please do share them, because this is something that's very interesting for Gutenberg development.
Yeah, that is actually quite a good point. Yeah, this has all not been, it's not all yet in WordPress. So there's always a chance to have different approaches, or fix it after the initial rollout in 5.9, then for the next version. So it's good to try out the plugin, Gutenberg plugin on a test site and enable a block-based theme, and then play around with it. So Pramod has a question for Ellen. Please share your experience in developing WooCommerce websites. What is possible and what are the restrictions?
So there are, like, it's not ready for production yet, but I think, as you just said, Birgit, it's super important for us right now to just look into it and try to make the best of it. And what they're building with Woo is they're building Woo Blocks, which is an extra plugin you can install at the moment. So that is super helpful for anyone who's like worked with WooCommerce for a while. The experience in the checkout and cart templates were not, like, it wasn't really customizable a lot. So that will change tremendously, because they're also building everything in WooCommerce with blocks. So at the moment, you can install the Woo Blocks plugin and see how far they're going, and they're actually documenting it quite nicely. And I asked some questions and they answered right away. They have like a roadmap going, but it's a little bit behind compared to like just themes at the moment. So we need to wait a little bit for them to get it going. But yeah, we actually got WooCommerce into our theme, and I think variable post, like products are not working at the moment, but it's kind of working. Like, I wouldn't like put it up for like production sites, but it's cool to kind of go along with the development, and it was more doable than I thought it would have been. And I got into their blogs already, which is super helpful to get like a head start of what is going on in WooCommerce if you're developing for it. So I think that was helpful. And what I wanted to mention, like with the themes, like where it's going, it's so cool at the moment. So I think, as you said, Birgit, there are so many different approaches, and kind of like make your own thing out of it, which we just followed. Like, themes were so established, like plugins are established. Now it's like an open field where we can kind of our own way into it. And I think that's gonna be so cool to see, like what.
All right. Yeah, you
And
keep
yeah,
breaking
as
up. I
Anders
got the
said, like
gist of it.
designers. Oh, yeah. What is happening with my internet connection? Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Maybe Maybe someone else should take over. Sorry, that's so frustrating. Normally our
Yeah, I'm so
connection is
sorry,
quite
yeah.
fast.
Carolina shared in the chat window a link to WooCommerce roadmap in connection with blocks, and said how, and Darren Ether published that, and he says, okay, this is what we're doing now and why we are not yet ready for blocks, and this is what's soon to come, and in for the chart block as well as for the checkout block. And that was the reason why they're so behind with a few things, because some of the features that they need, or some of the hooks that they need, they haven't been in the block editor yet. So the Gutenberg team kind of needed to catch up on things, especially with the connection with the REST API. So we have another question from Tim Bowen. Thank you. What are the current best practices for theme.json and responsive font sizes?
I think when it comes to best practices, and this ties into what Ellen was saying as well, the interesting thing is that best practices haven't really been established for a lot of the stuff around block-based themes. And I think that's sort of what people will look to 2022 for a lot of those best practice discussions to happen around the next default theme, the first block-based default theme, and have those best practices be established as part of that development. But there are, of course, a lot of different approaches to everything, basically, in block-based themes right now, which is very exciting, very fun. It feels like it's been a long while since people basically wrote think pieces on their blogs about the best way to do stuff in WordPress development. And we've really seen a resurgence of that just in the last couple of weeks, of people arguing for the different approaches. I think the current 2022 font sizes uses CSS, what's it called, a method or function called clamp to set a base font size, and then use a viewport-based font size for smaller screens to scale it down from that original font size. And I know a couple of different themes that use that as well. So maybe that would be the current answer, but it could change. Keep a lookout on the 2022 GitHub issues, I guess.
Yeah, it's I still come across a lot of websites where the font size is so large that I barely can scroll fast enough with my reading speed. It's kind of it's really one of the things that a lot of designers still. Yes.
I think I think that it's true, like Anders said. I think the clamp approach will be taking over, and we are also like in the works to convert our like kind of responsive hack in our current theme, like in the INO like base to clamp, because it's just the smartest approach, and it's like we can use it now in the like most browsers, I think. And Rich actually posted a blog post yesterday, Rich Tabor, on his blog about it. So maybe we can link that in the
fluid styles. Yeah, I think I have it.
Like he posted about fluid typography.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Like you said, like people start sharing again what they.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
With Facebook being out and stuff, we can all blog again.
We could blog before, but yeah, you're right. Oh, I got it. Copy link. All right, I'll just bring it into the chat window. And we have another question from Jack Kennard. Surprised to hear and see different options to the admin panel. What do you think the admin panel will look like in the future with blocks? So anybody wants to take it?
I'm not sure which admin panel. If you want to expand on that, Jack.
Is that the, Jack, do you mean the site editor or the WP admin? just answer it in the chat. So I can see that plugin developers could use Gutenberg components in the plugin, in the WP admin. And I know there's also the core CSS team is also working on streamlining the color selections on admin, because they found that in the CSS there, they had about, I don't know, 500 different colors. And when you want to change a color palette, then it's really hard to actually adjust all the 500 lines of code there or colors there. The site editor is actually will mimic what the front end has and styles. So, and that gets better and better as far as I know. What was your experience with that, Anders or Ellen or Carolina, to get the site editor kind of match what's on the front end, so the user has a really what you see is what you get experience?
Yeah, I definitely think it's getting a lot better. I think if you stick to only using theme.json right now, it basically will look the same because they are very good, the Gutenberg team, about mapping those values to both views. I think the more difficult part is when you have a lot of custom CSS, like Tove still has, that knowing what elements to target and having those elements be targeted consistently both in the site editor and on the front end is very difficult. And especially since the priority of the Gutenberg styles can differ quite a bit between the two views. So I think that's another area where the sooner we can start to move more stuff into theme.json, the easier it will be. Because one of the common problems, even with the block-based content editor, is that the priority of CSS and the names of elements change from update to update. So supporting those changes could be quite a hurdle for themes that rolled a lot of custom CSS. And I think that's what I look forward to with moving more stuff into theme.json, that I can be less terrified of new updates to the core styles and the core element names.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Have any of you watched Helen Husandi's presentation on the White House site at the WordCamp US?
I missed it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So she also talked a little bit about it, because they have this whole header, full width header image, and then a box that kind of is either on the left side or on the right side on the header, with some links to go deeper into whatever the topic of the day is right now. And she said it was a little bit harder to match up the front end with the back end, because the site bar of the block editor still get into the way. Yeah, it's not going to be full screen. And so she said a good remedy for that would be, if you have custom blocks, that you put the most important things that people will use all the time into the block toolbar rather than into the sidebar. And so that's kind of a remedy for that as well, just to kind of organize your real estate there. So Jack came back and said, Caroline, you mentioned something about no pages. Maybe I misunderstood. So he had the question that about what you think the admin panel will look like in the future with blocks. And then he might have misunderstood. And Ellen, you showed that you didn't have a custom tag, but I think what you might be referring to, Jack, is that Ellen said she doesn't have a customizer, that some of the settings will all be in the global styles sidebar, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely to come.
So the customizer disappears with the site editor, I think probably in 5.9. I don't know. I think Carolina, you probably know more about that. So I'm actually not missing the customizer in our theme at all. So we're fine. So but we always used it pretty minimal, but there are different themes out there that kind of used it heavily. And yeah, we just had to kind of rearrange and I will write a blog post about that, like how we manage without the customizer, because that's super interesting. And yeah, we don't have it anymore.
You said it
So
live
it's
here,
all
so we
moved.
are all expecting that blog post now.
Yeah, I will do it. I will do it, definitely. Because I just like all the transition, I thought, oh, I have to share that because it just makes sense to share now, like since it's all still in progress and it's small like snippets that we've learned along the way. And yeah, you manage better without the customizers than you would expect. But I think, yeah, just get into like new approaches now. And I think in general, just like the theme.json will replace everything that we had in the customizer for themes. And it will be more, I think a theme can be more like viewed as just like a skin, like you have skins in the code editors and stuff. So it's just the skin you lay over things, and then you come in with blocks and you come in with patterns, and you have all these like more modular kind of ways to add things to WordPress. And I think that's just a smart approach and will be a lot more user friendly in the long run.
Sorry, Carolina, you wanted to say something about customizer and well, Ellen thought you might say something.
I do not have any more information on what might or might not be in 5.9.
Yeah, we don't.
Well,
If I should guess, the customizer is not being removed in 5.9. But if you activate a theme that has support for full site editing, the menu option will not be there.
Yeah.
Instead, you will have the global styles. So for older teams, or for new, what we call classic themes, the customizers will still be there until the team developer has come over this initial period, the transition. As soon as they learn that it's so much easier to work with the theme.json than creating custom customizer options, then the theme.json will take over.
Yeah, but I think that it's not gonna, the customizer will not disappear from WordPress in the next 3 years.
It's not suddenly no longer going to be supported. Right. And no one is going to remove the code or the files for the customizer. It's actually only the menu option that is no longer there.
Right. And you can still approach it with / customizer PHP.
Yes. And there is also on the add themes page, you have the live preview, but you can still actually view a block-based theme in the customizer, so it's not gone.
And also WooCommerce at the moment uses it still, like even with block themes, because someone asked about like WooCommerce support, they still need it. So if you have WooCommerce active with a block theme now, you can still access things there.
I think we have one last question because we are on the hour mark here. And so that was Tim Bowen again. Will theme.json always be adding so many important references in the CSS? So I think the talks about the color palette and coming into that.
Until you come up with a smarter solution. Unfortunately, I mean, it is something that no one wants, but this is what we have ended up with because no one has been able to do it smarter.
Yeah, I think I prefer the importance to the same class name 5 times in a row to increase the priority of the targeting, which has also become pretty frequent. But I totally understand that it's a difficult problem to solve for the people who actually need to write the CSS as part of Gutenberg and Core, because there are so many different themes and so much different CSS to account for. So they really need to bump up that priority to a very high level to make it work. But it is a bit of an eyesore, but it's unfortunately a necessary one, I think.
And I think that the team is very hard exploring also creating the theme JSON not in code view, but to create an interface for that where you can then put all the things in, and then it automatically creates a theme JSON file. So maybe that's not connected to that topic completely, but there's also something people that are more comfortable with CSS have a hard time thinking, oh, do I have to write my CSS now in theme JSON? I don't like it, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there will be a remedy for that as well. Okay, so Lobsang has a comment. Caroline, I was thinking about you can assign template parts like main template page or post from the dashboard. Not quite sure. I think that's out of context in certain things. That you can assign the index.
I'd almost need an image of what you're thinking about to be able to understand it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Brian says, I have to leave this for another call, but I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. Thanks all. And Tim says, nice answer. Thank you all. So yes, it seems like we all, that's all the time we have today. And I have just 2 more questions for our panelists. So do you have an announcement or something that you couldn't get in before, and you want to have people in mind, and how can they reach you if they wanted to get in touch with you? Ellen first.
Announcement is just sorry for the failed presentation. Sorry about that. That was, maybe I can do a little, I can do a little video or something like it as a replacement. I can share on Twitter. That was a little bit sad from my side. I'm sorry about that. And yet just like ask on Twitter, on our blog, like comment. Yeah, we're kind of everywhere around, or even like in the support forum for our blog and theme and stuff like.
All right. Anders?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, I guess. It's mostly WordPress related stuff these days. And I'm Anders Noren at Twitter, one word.
All right. Carolina?
No announcements, but I have enjoyed this chat, and I can be reached on the WordPress Slack, and my username is Poena, or on Twitter at Carolina Poena. Also one name, one word.
Well, a big thank you to you all and to our viewers for the great questions. I also have a survey for you, so I'm going to share that in the chat. If you want to fill that out, we always try to improve our shows, and with your opinions, that would be great. And if you have any more questions, you can always send them to Pauli at gutenbergtimes.com. That's Pauli at gutenbergtimes.com. A recording will be available in a few minutes on the YouTube channel, and we will publish the transcript and the resources, also for the resources of the theme JSON you were looking for, Lobsang. I think the earlier post to Marcus Kazmierczak's, you can use the theme JSON also for classic theme. I think he had quite a few resources in his blog post as well. Yeah, thank you to Carolina, Ellen, and Anders for spending time with us. It was a great joy talking to you. Be well, and goodbye and good luck.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Yes, and that's it. You take care, and I'll see you in the Slack.